proceed?
Yes, Counselor, before you begin your examination, I
Yes,
need
Your Honor.
to alert you that I had an ex parte communication last night with President Obama, who was touring this facility, and I spoke to the Director of Homeland Security, the CIA, the NSA, the FBI, and all other intelligence agencies that protect the vital interests of the United States of America. And you are not to ask any questions involving the SEED project, other than the questions which I may or may not allow. You may proceed.
Absolutely. Thank you, Your Honor. Appreciate that. Mr. Stanhope, good afternoon. How are you, sir?
I'm well, thank you.
I have a few questions to follow up on your direct examination here. You know Christine Sabala, correct?
Yes.
You know that she worked for your company, correct?
Yes.
And she worked for your company for 6 years, correct?
Correct.
And you know that she was a good, smart, hard-working employee, correct?
Yes.
And your company fired her, right?
Correct.
All right. Now, she was fired after she disclosed content on what you would refer to and have in your testimony as joke emails, right?
That's correct.
They were not sensitive SC materials, right?
Correct.
Right. None of these materials that caused this woman to lose her job and get fired at your company were stamped top secret or government secret, right?
They were typed confidential.
Sure, you guys put the stamp confidential on it, but you didn't put top secret, you didn't stamp it classified, nothing like that, right?
That's right.
All right. And again, whatever you wrote and created, these were all joke emails, right?
That's correct.
And you knew they were joke emails, but the one person who did not know they were joke emails was Christine Sabala, true?
Yes.
In fact, the first time you or your company let her know that she was dealing with joke emails was after she was fired, true?
I'm not sure. I don't recall.
Well, let's see if I can
After
refresh your memory there, Mr. Stanhope. She came to you at some point and told you she had put some information on the internet, correct?
Yes.
And she told you it was
I had gone to her and asked her if she did.
and she was forthright and told you she had, right?
Yes.
She didn't keep anything from you. She didn't lie. She was straight up with you and said, here's what I've done, right?
Yes.
All right. And when she told you what she had done, you didn't say to her, hey, Christine, by the way, those are joke emails. True?
I said what she had done was wrong and that she should not have done that.
So here's my question, Mr. Stanhope. Did you tell her they were joke emails?
I don't believe I told her they were joke emails.
Right. She had disclosed confidential information. You have you have policies at your company, right?
Yes.
And everyone has to comply with them, right?
Correct.
And there's no exception. It goes all the way up to the big executives on the top floor like you, right?
That's correct.
All right. And one of those policies is if any employee believes there's a breach of confidential information, they have to report it immediately. That's right out of your policy and procedure manual, isn't it?
Yes, they're supposed to.
Right. And when you confronted Christine, Mr. Stanhope, and she told you what she had done, and you felt this was a confidential breach, right? A breach of confidential information, you didn't report it immediately, did you?
I reported it about a week later.
Yeah, right. You sat on this for a week, even though your whole company's policy is, don't wait, report it immediately.
Sure.
Isn't that true?
That's true,
And
but
the
it's never easy to fire somebody. So I wanted to think about it. She was an excellent employee, and I wanted to mull it over a little bit and make sure the decision I was making was the right decision. So it took me a little bit longer than immediately.
Mr. Stanhope, we heard you say earlier it's never easy to fire someone. We got it. That's your story now. I got it. But what I'm going is, you sat on this for a week and didn't report it like your policy and procedure required you to do, right?
Yes.
And there was a reason you sat on this for a week, isn't it? Isn't there?
Yes, I just told you the reason.
But for your giving her access to that computer, she never would have had that opportunity, true?
True.
So she didn't breach any confidential information because she put up jokes, but you did. We can agree on that at a minimum, right?
Can you repeat that, please? I'm sorry.
I'm sure you'd like to hear it again. Let me say it again. She ended up not disclosing any confidential information because it was a joke. But you, sir, by
She
letting
did not
her,
know it
excuse
was
me,
a
you
joke.
asked me to repeat it. By
Go
allowing her access to your computer with confidential information, that was a breach of your policy. True?
Not true. She did not know it was a joke. Therefore, she breached policy.
And you breached policy by giving her access to the computer. We've already covered that, haven't we?
I did not, because it was my personal computer.
All right. Mr. Stanhope, let's button this down and wrap it up. What really happened and why SC ruined my client's career was you and a couple of the executives up there on the 24th floor came up with a little bit of a fun joke plan and you concocted some emails, right? True?
Yes.
Right. And you let her have access to your personal computer and she found those emails, right?
Yes.
And you knew that that was a problem, so you wanted to cover that up and not let that get out. So you had your dear, good college roommate friend fire her. Isn't that true?
Well, he's the CEO of the company. That's what they typically do.
Mr. Stanhope, let me ask you this last question. Do you and Mr. Sinclair and the other men up on the 21st floor, do you still create joke emails at your company?
I didn't say they were all men. You did.
Do you still create joke emails, Mr. Stanhope?
Sure, sometimes.
You're still doing it?
Sure.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen, may it please the court. How are you doing today, Mr. Stanhope?
I'm well, thank you.
I've got several questions for you, sir, but I first want to start out, make sure this jury understands exactly who you are and what you are for Stupendous Creations. First of all, you are the Chief Information Officer, is that correct?
Yes,
You are the guy when it comes to information, right?
that's correct.
You're one of 6 executives on the executive committee, is that right?
That's correct.
An executive committee made up solely of men, is that correct?
That's not correct.
Really? Which woman is on there between Xavier, Sinclair, Jack Murphy, Martin Ownerpaid, Chris
Jack
Thomas?
Murphy is Jacqueline Murphy. We call her Jack.
Oh, interesting.
And Chris Thomas is Christine Thomas. She likes to go by Chris.
Okay. All right. So the 6 of you, though, run the committee.
That's correct.
You run the company. You run it your way, right?
Yes.
Now, you have known this group for a long time. Your position is you run the company your way. You run the place your way, right?
Yes.
And in your division, in your department, you run a tight ship. That's your position. I run a tight ship, correct?
That's correct.
You have strict policies, is that right?
Absolutely.
And in the information system over there at Stupendous Creations, your information structure, your choice is PC-based, correct? Your eco structure, quote unquote, is PC-based, is that right?
That's my choice, but I allowed them to use other devices other than PC-based.
Well, we're going to get into what you allow, sir, but let's get some basics down. Your infrastructure is PC-based, right?
Correct.
That would be Microsoft Windows, right?
Yes.
Would not be a shiny new Mac, right? You have a
No.
Mac? You have a shiny new Mac computer?
I don't.
What's the personal computer that was accessed by your employee?
It's a PC. I don't own a Mac.
Have you ever owned one?
No, never.
You had a PC that was your personal computer that she accessed, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Your personal computer, if I look at your policies, quote unquote, and I'm looking at your testimony, sir, there are no use of personal devices of any type whatsoever on the premises. Did I say that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Whatsoever. Except
Correct.
for what? Your personal computer? Or you don't use your personal computer on the premises?
I don't use my personal computer on premises.
Okay. So Christine Sabella, though, accessed confidential emails between you and Sinclair on your personal computer, right?
Yes.
Well, that begs the question, sir. If your personal computer isn't at your office, she must have accessed it where? At your residence? At your apartment? Your condo? Your car? Which one?
Definitely not. She works in IT, and I believe she probably hacked in somehow to use my computer.
Really? She hacked in? And I'm sure you've reported this to the authorities, or you haven't, have you?
No, I
The
haven't.
same way you didn't report her alleged dissemination illegally of inappropriate information, the same way you didn't report that to your own CEO for a week, right?
I reported it
A week later.
a week later.
And we're going to get to that, but let me get one thing straight. These emails, these confidential emails, are not supposed to be, Mr. Strict Policy, right? They're not supposed to be on personal computers, right? And they're supposed to be password protected, right?
Correct.
We've seen the photos in this case. They are photos of you and my client, right? You've seen those photos.
Yes.
Many of them, you're dancing, you're drinking. In your own words, sir, they are intimate photos. Agreed?
I don't believe I said intimate.
Really? Paragraph 6, line 5 of your direct testimony, sir, in Magna's real-time reporting, quote unquote, I admit these are fairly intimate photos.
Sure, but I have photos like that with lots of my employees at different events and functions. We're drinking, we're having a good time.
Great, let's see some. Do you have any?
I think they were admitted to evidence.
You think?
Don't you have them?
You think? So let me ask you something. To an outsider looking at photos of you and my client who works for you, she's your subordinate, to an outsider, your own words, you agree they're fairly intimate photos. Wouldn't you think to an outsider they look like there's something going on more there than just boss and
They
worker?
possibly could, but there's definitely nothing going on, believe me.
Really?
Yes.
You couldn't name one corporate event that these photos were taken at, could you, sir? Could you?
There were 3 conferences that we had around the country.
And you couldn't name one, can you? You want the page and line on that?
Please.
Quote unquote, I cannot identify which corporate events these photos were taken at.
Well, I mean, from the actual picture, I don't know what the venue was.
Which,
How about-
which page and line for the record, Counselor?
How about which page in line for the record? That would be paragraph 6, Your Honor.
I don't know what
How
you're
about-
implying, but you don't understand something.
Sure.
She's not my type. There's no
Sir,
intimacy of
Your
any
Honor,
sort
there's
going
no question
on.
pending. Can I get my question out first? That's how it works, you see.
What's your legal objection, Counselor?
It's
Non-responsive?
non-responsive.
Sustained.
All right.
Listen to the question. Answer
Sir,
it
with all
carefully.
due respect, I ask the questions, you answer them. I mean, that's how the process works here. And I'm talking about photos that depict you. They don't depict me. I wasn't there, right? So let's talk about them. You know that these photos imply you were intimate, right?
Yes.
Now, once you found out that my client disclosed this information, you became angry, you waited a week to report it, right?
Correct.
And then Xavier Sinclair, the CEO, did the firing when she worked for you, right?
Correct.
He take a bullet for you, sir? Did he take a bullet for you? Was my
He's a
client
very
the bullet?
by-the-book guy and did what he needed to do.
Fired your employee.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Stanhope, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Stanhope, at SC, you believe that the rules of the office ought to be followed uniformly, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
That you are a by-the-book guy, correct?
Yes.
You've testified that you like everything done by the book, and therefore rules should be applied uniformly no matter who you are in your company, correct?
Yes, that's true.
But, sir, that really doesn't happen at SC, does it?
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Well, let's talk about the case that we're here for. You confronted my client and asked her whether she disclosed material that you believed was confidential, correct?
Yes.
She admitted it to you, correct?
Yes.
Your company policy was that once an admission of a breach of confidentiality occurs, you are to immediately report that to your supervisors, correct?
Yes, that's our policy.
And in fact, sir, you didn't do that here, did you?
I waited a few days because I was mulling it over. Ms. Sabala is a very good employee, and it was a hard thing for me to do, so I wanted to think about it for a little while before
So your answer is you didn't follow policy either, did you, sir?
That's correct.
And in fact, you directed my client not to tell anybody, didn't you, sir?
That's correct.
So you advised her to break policy, and you broke policy. And then you finally decided to tell your good friend, the CEO of the company. Isn't that correct?
Well, yes.
And, sir, would you like to tell this jury exactly what discipline did you receive following your breach of protocol and policy at your company?
Well, I actually received a 50% pay cut in my bonus at the end of the year, which is a substantial bonus.
Is that right, sir? Did you bring your tax returns with you to substantiate that statement?
I believe everybody here had them. Did you not get a copy?
No, I don't think they were produced, sir. I don't think anybody ever raised that issue. You sure about that? You sure your reduction in your bonus wasn't caused by your own performance problems as opposed to this case, sir?
Absolutely not. I broke company policy myself, therefore my punishment was 50% deducted in my bonus package.
When you brought the information about my client's alleged breach of confidentiality to your CEO, it was you and him and the rest of the board, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And they told you that they were going to fire Miss Sabella, isn't that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And again, you chose to tell Miss Sabella and violate your company policy again, correct?
That's correct. It was a hard thing for me to do, but I felt badly and I wanted her to be prepared.
Sir, at SC, do the rules to men apply differently than the rules to women?
Not at all.
They just apply differently for you.
Not true.
When my client was let go, my client was given approximately 6 months of severance pay, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. The normal severance pay for SC employees is 3 months.
Yeah, that's correct.
You and Mr. Sinclair are childhood friends, correct?
Yes.
I think you told us in pretrial deposition that you are so close that you would take a bullet for him.
That's correct.
Sir, you've alleged in your defense of this case that Miss Sabella violated a very, very serious company policy, correct?
Yes, Miss Sabala.
Miss Sabella, and you had no employment contract with her, did you, sir?
She signed a contract, as all employees do when they enter into the company.
And it did not provide for 6 months of severance. It provided for 3 months of severance.
That's correct.
Yeah.
We used our discretion in the severance pay for Ms. Zabala because we thought that she did a great job. She worked there for 5 years, so we gave her a few months extra severance pay.
In fact, sir, she was given twice the amount of compensation in order to cover up and keep secret your ongoing affair with her. Isn't
I don't
that
know
correct?
if it was twice. I haven't given everybody in the company severance pay, so I don't really know.
Mr. Stanhope, tell this jury, was the real reason my client was fired, was she fired for putting out confidential materials on the web or not putting out for you anymore, sir?
She's 100% not my type, if you know what I mean.
I really don't.
You're more my type.
Thank you.
Start with Dana. I think you did an outstanding job of laying out the facts, getting the structure, so everything flowed from there. You handled remarkably well the question of the two women on the executive committee. Just, okay, fine, and moved along. Sorry. The effort to weaken the confidentiality aspect of it by stressing that these were joke emails, I think you overemphasized a little, but you kept coming back to it because there was no good answer coming back from the witness. So I think it made a real strong impression. I think the witness did a nice job with staying on point with the disclosure, so I think you made it not a material disclosure. And didn't get too much into the access question. Went back and forth on that. Fine, you made your point, you let it go, and I think it's played out very nicely.
Who to Dan, great style as well, as John was saying, a little bit more forceful, but I think that was effective. And I think you had the witness defensive, and then you did a good use of citing to the deposition when on the term intimate. I thought, that was very well done, and, I lost some credibility there. He couldn't remember his testimony. So that was good. And you also made all your points, as far as a hostile work environment, the joke issue, and, and the personal computer issue. So I thought that was very effective as well.
Ted, again, you had more of the sort of, respectful but controlling style, at least I personally react to really well. I thought the one thing that you did that no one else did that worked really well were the questions about sexual harassment generally and his attitude, interactions with women generally. I mean, the fact that he didn't even know what sexual harassment was came off great. That he's, the thing about the pictures, and he says, oh, I'm cheek to cheek with all my employees. And you just took that and ran with it. Oh, so this is the way you do business. You're always cheeked. I was willing to believe that she has a sexual harassment claim, whether or not they had an affair at that point. So I thought that actually worked out really well. And then you had a couple questions, but you kind of soft pedaled on the affair point because you knew what he was going to say. At the end, you swung for the fences, and he was waiting for it. Yeah. That was the only hiccup I thought. But all really good.
Great job by all of you, and you're to commend it for doing an excellent job and putting on an excellent presentation today. A couple of things, it kind of reminds me of the old John McKay story. John McKay, former coach of Tampa Bay years ago, once had a team that went 0-14. So after a really tough loss, a reporter asked him in the locker room, what did you think of your team's execution today? And he says, I'm in favor of it. Which kind of brings me to my first point, which is regarding Dana and his performance. That was an execution. I mean, you did a really great job of setting this up. You opened very well with a very good conversational approach towards what was taking place here. You used a very good common sense approach on the joke email issue, which I think would resonate very well. You did a good job of quoting the policies and procedures of the organization. And in the very end, we have a lot of other issues out there with this particular case, but ultimately it's that policy and procedure, or lack thereof, in terms of following up on that, that's going to decide where this case is going to go. And I thought you did a really effective job of bringing up the fact that, hey, they didn't follow policies and procedures here.